Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another lesson. Today, we're going to talk about how to properly use transitions to improve your writing, but it's also going to help you in reading as well. So let's get started. After finishing this lesson, you will be able to identify transitions in writing and understand their meaning, use transitions to make your writing more clear and have better flow, link your ideas and paragraphs together to help your readers understand you. Choose the best transition for the best situation. All right, so what is a transition? A transition is a word, phrase, or sentence that connects one idea to the next. Transitions create flow in writing by showing the relationship between ideas through comparison, contrast, cause, examples, addition, and summarizing, and there are other uses, but these are the most common ones. So what I've done in this lesson is I've broken down all the transitions into these types. Each one follows a formula for that type of transition. So I'm going to teach you the formula for each type so that you can easily understand the meaning of sentences with those types of transitions. I'm going to attach a list of all the transitions broken down by type as a link in this lesson. Then all you'll have to do is find the transition that you're working with and then look and see which category it's in, okay? Or you can scroll down to the type of transition you need based on what you want to communicate in your writing, and then you can choose one of the transitions from that category. So you can see the kind of formula down below: X sample sentence, transition, then you have Y, okay? So in every one of these different types of transitions, I'll break down what that type looks like and then the formula for it so you can understand it more easily. So if we start with the first type as an example of agreement, addition, similarity, all right? The formula we have for this one is X is true and Y is also true. Or if we have an X part of the sentence, then a transition, and then the Y part, the sentence is saying that Y agrees with X, or Y is another reason on top of X, okay? So, for example, smoking is very unhealthy as it causes severe lung damage. Furthermore, it has shown the ability to increase your chance of getting cancer by 84%. So here, smoking is very healthy as it causes lung damage, severe lung damage. That's our X, okay? Now we see we have the transition of furthermore. Furthermore is an agreement, addition, similarity type of transition. So now we have the Y. It has shown the ability to increase your chance of getting cancer by 84%. So because of the transition furthermore, we know that these two things agree with each other, okay? Y is adding on to the X. So we're saying not only is it unhealthy, but it's so unhealthy that it makes it much more likely that you will get cancer. So if we're reading this and we're trying to figure out what the author means, we could say that they were adding more reasoning here because of how they used furthermore. So a few more examples. Absolutely, exercise is beneficial for health. Moreover, regular exercise can help prevent disease. Playing sports is great exercise. Additionally, sports promote teamwork. Working out improves physical fitness. Similarly, it also enhances mental health. So each one of these would be on the list under agreement, addition, and similarity. So you could just check the list and see which category they're under, and then you would realize that they're adding agreement or similarity there. Okay, opposition, limitation, or contradiction. So X is something, but Y is the opposite, or says X is not true, or puts a limit on X. For example, governments can take many actions to limit the effects of climate change. However, it is we as citizens that must encourage governments to take those actions. So here we're saying, yes, X is true, or yes, governments can limit climate change, but however, Y puts a limit on that or contradicts that a bit by saying we as citizens need to encourage them to do it. So here, X is true, but to the limit, okay, of Y, right? So you see how that formula works, right? The Y puts a limit on X. A few more examples just to make sure we're clear. I wanted to go jogging. However, it was raining heavily outside. Okay. So X is true. I wanted to go jogging, but I was limited by Y. Okay. I couldn't because of Y. Y was that it was raining outside. So even though I wanted to, I could not. All right. The movie was enjoyable overall, although the plot was a bit predictable. Again, X says the movie was enjoyable, but the contradiction or the limit, the Y, was that the plot was predictable. So that's why the movie wasn't great, right? It was enjoyable, okay? So although shows us that these two things are opposite of each other, all right? Now, the last one, the CEO publicly championed workplace diversity, whereas internal memos uncovered bias against minority hires. Here we're saying X, the CEO, was saying things publicly, whereas Y, he was doing this other opposing, contradicting thing privately. All right. Okay, cause, contradiction, and purpose. Here we have X causes Y, or if X is true, then Y is true, or X is there for the purpose of Y. So for our first example, corruption in that country is at an all-time high. Therefore, much of the tax revenue raised there is kept from going to the places that need it most. So if we learn to look at it in the format of X transition Y, we start to be able to break it down on our own. We can look at the list and see therefore is under the category of cause, condition, or purpose. Now we look at the formula and see that it means X causes Y. So then when we read the sentence, we know that corruption causes the tax revenue to not get to the people who need it, okay? Because it's a cause type of transition. Let's look at some more examples. The new manufacturing process requires specialized training. Hence, the company is investing substantially in developing employee skills. So the X here is the new process requires specialized training. Hence, or because of this, this has caused, okay, now the Y, which is the company is investing in developing employees. The next one, given voter turnout has declined sharply in recent years, the new mayor will be elected with historically low support. So here we're saying given condition X, Y must be true, or Y is happening because of condition X. So given voter turnout is so low, the new mayor will have historically low support. And the last one, flooding frequently disrupts crop production in that region. Thus, food shortages arise whenever the rainfall is heavy. Okay, so in this one, X happens, thus the purpose of Y. So flooding disrupts crops, thus the purpose of the government trying to contain the rainfall. Okay. All right. Now for effect, consequence, or result. So Y is the effect of X. Okay. Y is a consequence of X, or Y is the result of X. For example, for many years, governments allowed the deforestation of rainforests across the world because of the potential profit from it. As a result, much of the world's rainforest is thought to be lost forever. So here we're saying X happened, and as a result, consequently, Y is now true. Okay, so governments allowed people to chop down rainforest. As a result, the rainforest might be gone forever. Okay, a few more examples. The new dietary guidelines recommend limiting sugar intake. Accordingly, food manufacturers have reduced sugar in many products. So the guidelines say this, and then accordingly, the effect is manufacturers are reducing sugar. All right. The next one, the tropical storm caused extensive damage along the coastline. As a consequence, many communities are still rebuilding years later. So the storm caused damage, and the consequence is communities are still rebuilding. All right. And the last one, the company adopted more eco-friendly practices. Subsequently, their energy cost decreased by 20% within a year. Okay, company adopted practices. Subsequently, the result was cost decrease. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to see the pattern with all these and that they're starting to seem easier and easier as you see how they follow a simple formula. Just a few more of these and then we're finished with the transitions. I know there's a lot in this lesson, but remember, you'll have a full list of all these transitions broken up by each category. Okay, so you'll be able to take your time and look through all this later. All right, so for some examples, support or emphasis, Y is an example of X, or Y is an emphasis of X, or X is true, especially when Y is the case, okay? Example, food donations from the wealthiest countries in the world to the poorest allow many people who would normally go without food the opportunity to eat consistently. This is especially true in places that have been hit by devastating famines, droughts, or floods. So here we're saying X is true. Just look at example Y and you can see, okay? Especially when we talk about situation Y, okay? So take a minute to stop and think and notice how you will be able to use these structures to make better points in your writing, okay? It's one thing if you just say, X is true because I say so, okay? But if you really want to convince people of your opinion, all right, or persuade them to do something that you want with your writing, using examples and support like this will take your writing to a whole new level that will help you achieve your goals in life and in your career. All right, a few more examples. There are some diets that allow you to eat healthy while still eating tasty foods. To illustrate, the Mediterranean diet is full of tasty fresh fish while still being low in calories. Here we're saying with some diets you can eat healthy and tasty. To illustrate, here's an example, okay? Next one, regular exercise improves heart health as evidenced by lower rates of heart disease among active individuals. So exercise improves heart health as evidenced by, as supported by, okay, lower rates of heart disease by people who exercise, all right? Time management skills are critical. Indeed, they can mean the difference between success and failure. Time management skills are critical. And then we have this indeed, right? Indeed, so critical that they can determine success or failure, all right? So it's emphasizing it, okay? Giving extra support to that idea. So again, we're using this transition to emphasize our point so that it really stands out and is clear to the reader the point that we're trying to make. Okay, conclusion, summary, or restatement. So Y is a restatement of X or saying X in a shorter way. Example, our thoughtless waste of precious endangered species of animals could cause long-lasting, devastating consequences for our planet in the future if we don't put an immediate end to these horrendous acts. In other words, if we don't do something now, our children will never have the chance. So we just said a really long sentence. And now, in case it wasn't all that clear or you got lost in the middle or something like that, now we just say it in a simple and short way, like, in other words, simple, clear point, right? In other words, here it is, very simple for you to understand, okay? So we just take something where we said it really long, say it again in a very short way. So this first one is an example of an alternative to in conclusion for the conclusion type of transition. Given the evidence, one can deduce that the new model is not cost-effective long-term. So one can deduce, one can gather, one can derive. These are all common alternatives to in conclusion. Now, if you're watching this lesson because you're taking the academic IELTS exam or the C1 advanced exam or the TOEFL or something like that, please, please, please don't say in conclusion or in summary on your exam, okay? Learn to use one of the others from this list, all right? Please, you'll score more points. If you learn anything from this lesson, please at least learn that. Now, in this example, to put it briefly, eating nutritious foods, exercising regularly, and getting adequate rest results in improved health and well-being. This is another alternative to in summary. You can say, to put it briefly, to summarize a paragraph that was full of a lot of information that may have been a bit overwhelming to the reader. All right. Now let's look at the last one. The proposal appears to benefit large corporations. In other words, it burdens average workers disproportionately. So this is like the example where we said to put it simply. The same here when we say in other words, we're going to restate it in a simpler or shorter way to make sure that they understood our point before we move on. Because again, why are we writing anything in the first place if people aren't going to understand it? Good question, huh? Okay, last type of transition is concession, all right? X may be true, but Y is also true. Even though X, Y is still true. Despite X, Y is true, okay? So for example, it may be true that the government paying for everyone's education allows more people to attend university. However, this is not the best way to pursue a highly educated society. So yes, that may be true. The X may be true, but Y is also true and may be more important. So here the X is government paying makes it easier to attend. They're agreeing that that's true. They're agreeing that the X is true. But Y, they say, is also true, that it's not the best way. And in their opinion, that is more important than the X. Now, I don't share this opinion because I have a mountain of student loan debt that has turned me into a socialist, but that's for another lesson, okay? No, but in all seriousness, concession really is a powerful tool in writing, okay? Also in negotiation or debate, concession is like judo versus boxing, okay? Instead of trying to go right back at the other side and saying they're wrong, punching them right back in the face, like in judo, you're going to try to pull them when they punch you and throw them off balance, okay? You're saying, well, yes, you're right, or you might be right, but this thing I'm saying is also true, okay? It's kind of a shifty way to change the focus to your point, and then if they disagree with you in some kind of an aggressive way, it makes them look extra aggressive because you just said that they were right. You said, well, you're right, but look at this point that I say that's also right. But now if they come back and say, no, you're wrong, now you look like the reasonable person, in the discussion. So can be a little bit shifty in, negotiation, debate, things like that. But concession is an incredibly, incredibly valuable tool in writing. So make sure that you know how to use it. Okay, just 3 more examples here and I will try to be quick. While the car had a few minor issues that needed to be repaired, it was still an incredible value at that price. So yes, while the car is not perfect, it's still a good value. Even though it could be very profitable, we should consider the environmental impact before making a decision. Here, yes, it could be profitable. I'm conceding that, I'm making that concession, but the impact is more important, okay? Accepting the fact that more study is needed, the early results still seem quite promising, okay? And again, accepting X as true, Y is also true. All right, that's it for the transition types and the examples. Study these later and work on using them in your writing because they are so, so, so important. Normally, I would end this lesson here because we've already covered a lot of content. I think we're around 20 minutes. But if I end this lesson here, you're all going to be emailing me with questions about what do you do about the commas? Where do the commas go? So I'm including it in these last 5 slides. If you need to pause the video and take a break or something, that's fine. But I recommend you just power through it so you don't get too distracted. Then you can come back and revisit this stuff later if you don't remember it all. Remember, that's the beauty of having these video lessons, okay? So let's keep going. The first comma rule with transitions is use a comma after introductory transition words or phrases that come before the main clause. So for example, however, the experiment failed to support the hypothesis, okay? However here is an introductory clause starting the sentence off, and since it's before the main clause, it needs a comma. Next, use a comma before a transition that separates 2 independent clauses. For example, the data was compelling, yet the scientist remained skeptical. So both of these clauses are independent clauses, again, meaning they could live on their own as complete sentences and complete thoughts. So since this transition breaks up two independent clauses, it needs a comma before it, but not after it. Third rule, use commas around transitional phrases and clauses that interrupt the main sentence flow. For example, the hypothesis, if proven correct, could revolutionize the field. So if it breaks the flow is the key here, right? Does it break the flow? Here we have a relative clause that kind of adds some extra information and takes us out of the flow of reading the main clause, so we need the two commas, okay? Second example, the doctor, however, thought otherwise, okay? Again, it takes us out of the flow, so therefore we're gonna need that comma. Rule number 4, do not use a comma when the transition word is connecting parts of the same clause, okay? For example, the scientist therefore concluded that more research was necessary, all right? Many people will make a mistake here thinking just because it's a transition, it needs a comma. But if it's connecting two parts of the same clause, like here, it's connecting the subject and the verb phrase, right? It does not need a comma. And if a lot of this stuff is not clear for you, please go back to the sentence structure and the comma rules lessons, and that will help you a lot here. All right, the last one, do not use a comma when the transition comes after the main clause or at the end of the sentence. So for example, the experiment failed to support the hypothesis, however. Here we can see that the transition comes at the end after the main clause, and in these situations, we simply never need a comma. Again, go back to the sentence structure and the comma rules and the sentences and clauses lessons. All this should be pretty clear if you've got all these lessons together. Okay, my word, this was a long lesson. But it really is one of the most useful lessons you're ever going to take from me, okay? So I really hope that you stuck in here and you're still with me, all right? So let's quickly summarize these. I won't spend too much time. Transitions connect ideas and show the relationships between them. Effective transitions create flow in writing. Types of transitions include agreement, addition, similarity, opposition, limitation, contradiction, cause, condition, purpose, effect, consequence, result, examples, support, emphasis, conclusion, summary, restatement, and concession. All right. And then use commas correctly with transition words and phrases, because there's no point in learning all these smart transitions if your grammar isn't good as well. And then lastly, choose transitions that fit the style, tone, and purpose of your writing. Okay. Make sure that you're communicating what you want to communicate and how you want to communicate it. So we really learned a lot today if you look at this summary slide. So I hope you feel accomplished about yourself for today's work. All right, practice time. Today's practice is a little bit different. Today, I want you to take a screenshot of this page after I have all the questions up there. And then I want you to go look at that list of transitions that I told you about that's in your dashboard. And I want you to choose one transition for each type for each blank, okay? So fill out this whole list and have a look at all the choices that you could go with, and then choose the best one for your meaning, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pop these up. Make sure that I don't go too far. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I'm popping all these up. You don't have to pause me today, okay? No pause and unpause and all that stuff. Just take a screenshot of it now, and then go ahead and do this later after the video. And then so there's really, I mean, there can be wrong answers if you choose the wrong ones, but if you just go from these categories, you should be 90+% correct. I just want you to get comfortable with going through that list and picking out transitions based on the type, all right? Okay, that's it. You are finished. And today that means a lot more than when I normally say it, okay? Because today we covered a lot, like I said earlier, but this is one of the most important lessons you're ever going to take from me. When you want to learn how to write better in English, transitions are such a key skill that will help your writing automatically be more readable, more enjoyable to read, and it will make your writing have more impact on your reader. I know I always say this, okay, but it's especially true today. Go back and rewatch any of the parts of this video that you didn't understand. There's a lot of content here. It's all important. So maybe in a couple of days, have another look, see if there's anything that you missed. For now, get off your computer screen for a bit, give your eyes some rest, maybe go get some blood pumping, decompress a lot of this information. In the online exercises, I'll walk you through all this stuff even more, okay? So don't worry about it not making 100% sense yet. So good luck with those online exercises and see you in the next lesson.